You're the presence in my mind, Lord, see through these eyes. I am yours, you are mine, breathe through this form. You're the treasure in my heart, Lord, love through this heart. Lord, I see through me. Lord, I breathe through me. Lord, I love through me. Lord, I love through me. You're the presence in my mind, Lord. See through these eyes. So in 1979, I was 26 years old, and I was immersed in a hedonistic and sensual lifestyle. I was only interested in money, fame. I was a fashion model. I was getting high on drugs. I was addicted to many drugs. And I dropped out of college to go ski and pursue get rich quick schemes because I wanted to have a lot of money. And I was trying to find God through drugs and getting high, and that was not working, as you know. So in 1979, I saw a photo in a awareness center in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is where I was living, and there was a woman hugging this photo, and I just couldn't understand this. And I asked a gentleman there, and he said, "Well, that's Sai Baba, but you wouldn't be interested in him. He's not in your area of interest." And I said, no, I want to find out about him. And he gave me the book Sadhana. And this book Sadhana is really the core of the teachings. There's no miracles, there's no vibhuti, there's no fancy wonderful experiences. It's just the core. And I saw that it was true, but it didn't apply to me. I was American. This is obviously written for Indian people, and I had my life, but I did say, reading it, that I needed to have humility, and I was pretty arrogant, and so I did pray very hard for humility. And a couple days later, a gentleman showed up at my door with an appointment to do as a partner in a scheme to get my investors in my real estate and commodities and securities ventures to invest money into gold pyramids. And we would buy the gold, shape them into pyramids, and put them in these little beautiful display cases, little glass display cases, and then give them back to the investors. And I thought, wow, I'm not only going to be rich and famous, I'm going to be spiritual, because everybody knows how spiritual pyramids are. So I went and got money from all of my clients that I had up to that time, including my dad and my dad's friends. And I collected these money for this gold scheme. And lo and behold, a couple months later, the partner disappeared with all the gold and all the money. And the root of the word humility is humus. It's the earth, soil. So I was brought down to earth with a thud, and I had lost everything. And I went to LA to FBI to report, try to track him down. And I got a passport because I was afraid people were going to kill me. And I should have known he was a con artist. I mean, this was crazy. So my mother tracked me down in LA and called me, and this was before cell phones, of course. She found out where I was staying. She called and she says, "I just got a brochure to go see with the American Astronomical Society to see the solar eclipse in India. Do you want to go?" And this was really strange because my mom never traveled except with my dad. And I said, yes. I knew that this was Sai Baba's answer to the letter I'd written. I didn't know if I mentioned I wrote a letter to him right then, but I had just mailed a letter to him saying, what do I do? So she calls, and I thought I knew this was the answer, because the tour went to Hyderabad for the eclipse, and then it went to Bangalore. And I just knew I had to see Sai Baba at the Bangalore, at the Whitefield ashram. So off we went to India few months later. It was February. It was a day after Shivaratri because of eclipses at the new moon, and it was the day after Shivaratri. And I went. We were at the. I'm going to shorten this, skip the part. All the miracles that happened along the way. It was just like a series of incredible leelas. But we got to Bangalore, and I took off early in the morning in a cab with about 150 rupees I had. And I tucked a hotel sheet into my carry-all bag and took a cab over to Whitefield and got there just as the gates were closing, and the guard said, "Swami's just left. He went to Puja party." And I was shocked. I was stunned. How could he do this to me? I came all this way. So I said, "Take me to the bus station." And he says, "Oh, no, the bus left hours ago." And I said, "Take me there anyway, please." And I was crying, and the drivers were going, "Oh, this silly girl. Oh, my gosh." So they took me to the bus station. There was the bus there. It had one seat on it, and it cost like 5 rupees to go all the way to Puja party. And so for the next 7 hours, I sat on the bus and learned a lot of lessons. It was there was the only English-speaking person on the bus, and it was one of these packed, solid places with goats and chickens and everything. And so I got to the ashram at like 3 in the afternoon or so, and all I had was my sheet, and I was dressed totally inappropriately for India, no, much less the ashram. And so I went in. They gave me accommodation with 2 women who was a mother and daughter, and that gave me some pause. I was thinking about my mom. I didn't tell her where I was going, and this is going to be a little bit weird. So anyway, they wrapped me in a sari and sent me off to darshan, and they were going up in the hill to smoke, so they didn't come. And I took my camera with me, and I'm sitting in the darshan waiting for Swami. And as he walked out across from me, I had my camera up, and I was taking pictures of him as he was walking towards me. I didn't know cameras weren't allowed, and nobody stopped me. So anyway, as he walked towards me, I just was completely filled with divine bliss and love, and saw that he was God incarnate. And as he got closer and closer, I forgot to put the camera down. So I had this entire darshan through the camera. And with the severity of his look, it was filled with love, but it was pretty stern. And but I could see that I was God also. And besides feeling his divine love, I could see that I was God, that I had piled layers and layers of ego, which looked like tar on my soul in this vision. And I just knew that I had a lot of work to do. And so I'm going to share with this. So this is the look that cured me of drug addiction. It cured me of any desire to be a fashion model, to seek money. It was pretty impressive. Little did I know that was going to have to last me the rest of my life. So after I had seen him and known that my life was going to change, we continued this tour. And again, there was many, many, many leelas. We went to Delhi, to the Golden Triangle, and one of the bus driver's helpers made me sit in the front of the bus and talk to me about Swami's teachings. And he made me change my clothes every day because I wasn't being modest enough. And he'd teach me about being a modest woman. And it was just quite incredible to start my life over again. I had a condo. I sold that and moved back to New Mexico, to Los Alamos, New Mexico, where my parents lived, to try to make amends for all the incredible heart sickness I had given them for years and years. And the leelas just continued over the years. I did make 6 other trips to Puja party, including one with a family in 1991 with our 2 children. But I never did get an intense encounter like that again. But and I had vowed I would never marry a non-devotee. And so, of course, Swami set me up with a wonderful man who's my husband, Rob. And we have these incredible children. And my son and daughter, we started them in Suzuki violin when they were little teeny kids, because the philosophy of the violin playing is to create nobility of character. And we thought that that was the best thing we could do for our children. And it was wonderful. The contact that the children had with other kids in the Sai fold were just at retreats. And we had, they would go to Hema Springs retreat and the Land of Enchantment retreat that we've put on here for 38 years. And they didn't have Balvikas, we didn't have SSE, and just a tiny group of devotees here in Santa Fe. And so I had to teach them myself. And we would try to instill, the teachings in them, which they had really good. And one time in a retreat in Hema Springs in 2020, right at the end, we were doing our final arati, and I'm going to show you this picture. Swami sprinkled vibhuti on my face shield. It was so sweet. It's actually on the inside of the face shield. We were all wearing face shields because it was 2020, and we had to be careful. But that was just such a sweet little gift. And these kind of gifts, if you're alert to them, they just give you so much joy and so much faith. You just know that he's there all the time. He's with us. And in 2011, as Swami was getting sicker and sicker and in the hospital, I was praying like crazy. And my thought was that if he isn't in the body anymore, what would happen to me? I mean, I thought that my connection to him was because I wanted to be with the physical body, even though I was having all these experiences that were special. But I had a dream that night, and it was before he passed. My prayer was, don't let me go. What if I slip and go back to the worldly things that so attracted me at one time? Anyway, in this dream, we were at the ashram, and he was on the veranda, and I was standing in front of the veranda, and I had the end of one end of a rope, and he held the other end of the rope, two hands. And I was running back and forth with nobody else there, running back and forth, and he was holding his rope, letting me run back and forth. And it was so sweet and just filled with joy that he was going to hold on to me and I was going to hold on to him. And it was just a real act of faith to know that I could keep that going. And then after he passed, the night he passed, Easter Sunday, I was so distressed. I was so crushed that he was gone. And that night I had a dream, and I was in a hospital, which I think was the same hospital that Ramya was in a couple of weeks ago when she told her story. Had round windows on the doors, and I looked through this hospital, and I said, I found the room that he was in, and I peeked in, and I couldn't. He was on the bed, just laying in the bed, and I couldn't tell if he was alive or not. I opened the door, and the entire room was just suffused with love and bliss. It was just the walls and the ceiling and the floor and everything was just radiating this incredible joy and love, and as was the form on the bed. And I just went, so he is everywhere. And I walked over the bed, and there was no interaction really, but I turned and sat down on the floor with my back to the bed, and I felt him sliding over behind me, and I thought, maybe he's going to hug me from behind. And he slid behind me and just merged into my body. And it was just, how blissful it was just to know that he is able to, even though he's leaving the physical form, he's even more able to be back through us and let us be him, be his lessons and his messengers in the world. So I over the years, I've really tried to implement teachings, and I usually try to do one teaching at a time. And for the last few years, I've been working on this one from the 9-point code of conduct, and that is the avoidance of talking ill of others, especially in their absence. And It's a real big one. And when Leonardo Guter was at our retreat in the Land of Enchantment retreat, he said in one talk, he says, do just this one thing and you'll become enlightened. Don't ever criticize others in thought, word, or social media. He didn't say social media, but anyway, we know that that's the real tempting one. And in My Baba and I, in the Pandora's Box chapter, Dr. Hislop, he summarizes Swami's words on the dangers of criticism. And this really hit home. It was so hard to convey this, but when you're criticizing others, you absorb the bad qualities of others when you focus on their bad qualities. So that's one of the big reasons to not do it. The second one is you can't see your own faults if you're looking at others' faults. And we've all heard when you're pointing at someone, the three fingers are pointing back at you. And then the other one that really got me was that you can't see others' faults unless they are in you yourself. And Swami says in Premadara, do not talk ill of others. Talk only of the good in them. All are good. If you see bad in others, it is because there is bad in you. That takes some real introspection to absorb. And in order to progress on this teaching, in order to progress on this sadhana, which is what it is, there are two teachings that need to be absorbed and remembered, for me anyway. First is I'm not the body. And I studied the Bhagavad Gita and listened to Krishna talk about you're not the body, you don't kill or be killed. Because when we look in the world and we see actual evil and people doing bad things to other people, you want to criticize them. It's human nature, but if we remember we're not the body, and the second thing to remember is that God is in all. And we have to remember that so that we can be compassionate and still act to fight evil and to fight unrighteousness and to right wrongs without all the criticism in our mind. And the other aspect of this is with others. If other people criticize us or accuse us of things, I couldn't find the exact quote, but Swami says, paraphrasing, that to go within and honestly analyze yourself to see what they're saying is true. And if it's true, admit it and correct the fault. And if not, forget about it. They're just doing their thing. They're just acting out their own role. So don't worry about it. So a little bit of time left. I want to tell you a story of a incident that happened that was a very sweet gift. When I had come back from India in 1980 to Salt Lake City, I was again trying to get rid of everything that I owned there and move back to Los Alamos. And in the meantime, my parents wanted me to meet them at Lake Powell and on a houseboat for a week. And I was going to cook for them. And this was something that I had offered as a way to make amends for all the heartsick times we'd had. They're watching their daughter fall off a cliff, figuratively. So we'd agreed to meet at this marina way out in the desert next to the lake. And it was a Saturday in June. And I had my old faithful Dodge Dart car, and I packed it up and had allowed plenty of time to get to this meeting place. There's no cell phones, of course. And I drove down, and right as I was passing the service station at the end of the street in Salt Lake City, the car died. And I coasted up had enough momentum to coast up and oh my gosh, oh Swami, help me. And so the man came over and what's the problem? And we opened up the hood and he looked in and he couldn't find anything. So he takes off unscrews, takes off the air filter. And then he says, well, that looks fine. And he takes off, unscrews this and looks in the fuel filter. And there was a broken spring inside that. It was just laying there. And he says, look, you need to repair the part. And I go, well, where can we get a part right now? well, we can't get a part right now. It's Saturday afternoon. We'd have to order it, get it Monday. You'd probably be out of here by Monday noon. And I was just so crushed. I couldn't imagine that I would disappoint my folks yet again this time and not be there for them when we meet. Because you meet at the marina and then you go off in the lake for a week. There's no way to communicate or say, hey, I can't be there or anything. So I just prayed so hard. First I went in, I got some vibhuti and I sprinkled it all over the engine, which looked pretty funny on this black greasy engine. Anyway, and the guy had gone to help somebody else. So I screwed everything back together, and then I went and sat in the car and prayed so hard. I just felt poured out my heart to Swami that to please let me serve my parents. Don't let me do this again to them. So I started the car and drove 300 miles to the marina and met my folks. And I didn't say a word about it, and I was afraid to mention it. Even I knew that after a week, if it was still, if we got to the car and it didn't work, that my dad would help me out, and that would be no problem. But we had a wonderful time on the lake. I cooked for them. I cooked whatever they wanted. I cooked vegetarian for myself, but they had everything. Another thing happened while I was there. I've got a couple more minutes. While we were there, Lake Powell is on a sandy red rocks desert with loops and what do you call them? Just pools where the water has cut out big indentations. And I was exploring around there one morning and got stuck into a sandstone. I slid down into a sandstone furrow that there was no way out of it. And I just couldn't believe I had gotten this. I thought, oh my gosh, so it was early morning, the sun wasn't up yet. I thought, wait a little while and then I'll start whistling and try to get some help. And I sat there and prayed, and I had gone inch by inch around the furrow to see if there was any footfalls, any footsteps or any way to get out. And there was nothing. But after a few minutes I just sat and prayed and meditated. And then I felt it was kind of my back was irritating on my back. And there was this behind my back was dug into the sandstone footsteps that climbed out of the furrow. So I was able to get myself out of there without help and get back to my chores. And after the week was over, I got back to my car, I got into it, started it, and drove 300 miles back to Salt Lake City. Thank you, Swami. Thank you, Swami. And I pulled into the service station where I had been before, and the guy gives me a double take, and the thing was still broken. The fuel filter, whatever it was, that spring was still laying there, broken in half. And he just made that happen. It was so beautiful. So, just to wrap up here, I would talk a little bit about the music. Our kids were in the music program, and I discovered in playing a quartet. We had a little family string quartet. Discovered in playing music together that it was really a way to be with God. It was so special to play music together, and in bhajans, all that is so wonderful when we sing together. But I wanted to give kids more experience like that, even the ones that weren't interested in God. So I was a founding member of the Santa Fe Youth Symphony in 1994, and that's a thriving organization now. And so my son was in that, and my daughter. And then I started a dance school that was, again, dancing together, doing arts together is just such a great pathway to unity and cooperation and, loving teamwork. So that organization turned into this new one in Espanola, Moving Arts Espanola, which is the arts organization. We teach dance, music, visual arts, flamenco, folkloric dance, all sorts of culturally relevant genres. And and then, as she mentioned before, we feed every kid and every extended family member that wants it free vegetarian farm to table meals every day. And this was a real special path that just came out. It just came together with Sai Baba's guidance, obviously, but the folks in the organization don't know about him, but they're very loving God-loving people. So that's been a great service for me to do over the years, in addition to the Sai organization. And that's all I wanted to say today. And I just want to thank you for all the incredible opportunity to be here today to talk to you. And I'm going to share my screen once more with a quote. And this is from the Gita Vahini. Whoever among devotees dedicates all acts to me with no other disturbing thought, whoever meditates on me, serves me, remembers me, know that I am always with him, ever providing for him in this world and the next. And with that, I will say thank you so much. Infinite gratitude to Sai Baba for his love and guidance throughout all the years, and gratitude for Anu and Region 3 and all the incredible people in the Sai family. That's one thing, the Sai family is such rich, incredible, wonderful people that you meet everywhere you go. And it's I want to thank my wonderful husband, Rob, and my wonderful kids for being with me on this journey. So, Sai Ram.